You're planning a novel. You've got the characters in your head. Aeon Timeline can help you bring them to life. Let me show you how it's helping me. So this is the first of a series of 4 videos in which I share a blow-by-blow account of how I'm using Aeon Timeline 3 on a Windows desktop PC to keep track of characters, relationships and events as I draft my novel. In this first episode, we're focusing on character cards, also called the Character Inspector, how I create new characters, set their birth dates, add portraits and more. The rest of the series covers properties, event cards, backstory and flashbacks. I'm going to publish all 4 videos in fairly quick succession, so if you're watching directly after publication, they'll be out soon, and if you're watching later, you'll find everything linked together with a full list in the description. These videos are part of a longer collection documenting how I am using Aeon Timeline 3 to organise my zero draft. The novel is called Luce in New Lundon. It's the working title, and it's a science fiction story set in the year 2500, drafted mostly during NaNoWriMo 2023. Originally, this that you're watching now was one long video, but I've split it into 4 episodes and into short chapters, so you can skip around or binge the whole thing. You'll find the chapters listed and linked in the description. Okay, here we go. First of all, I'm going to demonstrate how you create new characters from the timeline, which you do simply by clicking on the character button in the left-hand column. That's the outline portrait icon, and then clicking on New Character in the character column that appears. Type in the new character's name and click Enter. Then, as you can see, you can move these characters up or down in the column just by clicking and dragging on the name labels. Let's go on to develop a more complete card for my principal protagonist, Luce. I click on her name and the character card, Aeon also calls it the Character Inspector, opens to the left. So first of all, I'm going to type in her name, and then we are going to identify her with what Aeon calls her initials. In fact, this is a shorthand identifier that doesn't have to be the character's actual initials. I'm going to write in Luce, and if you look here, you'll see in this circle that Aeon calls her avatar. Her initials appear as LUCE. I think that 4 characters is the maximum that you can get into an avatar circle, and we will come back to the avatar circle in a bit. All characters come initially with a default colour, which as you can see is blue, but I've chosen to use colour coding throughout the novel to identify my point of view characters. I have 6 point of view characters at the moment, and Luce is the most important. I've given her and every event observed from her point of view this same aquamarine colour that Aeon calls teal. What I'm doing here is identifying when Luce was born. You can do this for all your characters, and you can set times and dates for all the events in several different ways. Here I am doing it by reference to the calendar that is built into the character card. I find the year, 2478, then the month, April, then taking a step further I find the date, which is the 10th. A Monday, it seems. Now, as you can see, it looks worryingly as if she died the same day and time she was born. But if we put a tick in the ongoing checkbox, the depiction of her dates changes, and now she is identified as being a little over 22 years old on the day I've defined as today for my purposes in this novel. Most of the events of the novel, about 80% I think, take place on a single day. For the purposes of using Aeon Timeline, I have chosen the 21st of June 2500, and that's the day I have identified as today in the software. And by the way, I have made a dedicated video about setting today's date, and there is a link in the description. The next thing I'm going to do is to give Luce a portrait. I do that by scrolling down in the character card to where it says Files and Links. As you see, it's possible to link to an image or to attach an image. We'll attach an image. Here is my AI-generated portrait of Luce at 22. I am not entirely satisfied with this, but it'll do. After one of my earlier videos, I received a comment from one of you good people wondering why it is not possible to see the portrait at the head of the character inspector or the character card. Well, this is a mock-up of what it would look like, perhaps. The option is not available. I don't think the programmers have even considered it. However, looking through Aeon Timeline's website, it does seem as though they have thought potentially to have the avatar circles use an image pulled from the linked or attached image. I think an avatar of Luce would look a bit like this. Well, this is another mock-up. Again, it is not an option at present, but in the Aeon forums I found a comment from the programmers that suggested if enough people get in touch with them asking for it, this is something they may try to include in a future update. I just want to say that I am not affiliated with Aeon in any way. I've not been paid or commissioned to make this video, and I am just a user. So please don't come asking for software updates. Go to Aeon Timeline's own forums and put in your request. See if that will influence them for future developments. And just a little self-serving note, if you are finding this interesting and you have not yet done so, please do click the subscribe button. Getting back to the character cards and the features that actually exist, if you add character images to a timeline and go over to the timeline items box here in the left of the footer panel, you can open it and check the box to show characters in the timeline, and then this little box appears. Let's change the magnification, and voila, we have Luce Tullamores' picture in her timeline. You can see her dates from birth to the present time at the top there. Let's uncheck the box for character in the timeline and put the timeline, if I can get hold of it, I'll put the timeline back to where we were. That brings us to the end of this first video. We've looked at how to set up a character in Aeon Timeline 3, from avatar initials and color coding to birth dates and portraits. If you found this helpful, give me a thumbs up. And maybe consider subscribing if you haven't done so already, so that you don't miss the next one. Speaking of which, episode 2 is all about the properties section of the character card. I'll show you how I use it to add depth to characters and to define their relationships. The link should be on the screen now, somewhere around here, but if not, you'll find it in the description. Thanks for watching. Cheerio for now.